DEI is not the problem. Also, black people, and I know you're not going to like this, but every one of these programs, affirmative action, DEI, welfare, primarily have benefited what became out of nowhere the number one minority in this country, and that is white women. So black people who claim to be pro-black but are caping and going out and marching and singing "We Shall Overcome" and ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, talking about we need DEI, and I'm gonna need you to answer it with the yes or no question. It's the yes or no question. Bobo.
Really quick questions. Do you think that Holocaust education in our schools is a DEI program? There's no card for that. That's just yes or no.
I can look at it, whatever card I
Holocaust
choose.
education, is it a DEI?
Much.
You can have a press conference to say whatever you want. I just need a quick answer to
Your
this.
soliloquy
Is Holocaust, because this is my time, is Holocaust education a DEI program?
No.
Is African American Studies a DEI program?
I think I answered that with one
I'm
of the
asking
other
it again.
callers. Listen, we should
Just
be able,
yes or no?
We should be able to teach
My
courses in their
point is
entirety.
they are DEI programs, both of them, because students need diversity, equity, and inclusion to understand their environments. So both Holocaust education and the teaching of African American history are important, which is why the state of Connecticut requires it in our social studies curriculum. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't support one without supporting the other. And looking at what happens in the schools and actually deferring to teachers, parents who are on curriculum committees, local boards of education in states who actually do the hard work, and listening to what they say would be incredibly helpful in this role.
It's time to move on.
I got my thoughts, but Dave?
Okay, so first of all, I need you to understand two things. Number one, I am tired of the platforming of loud, sassy sisters who come across like slack-jawed North American big backs, yelling and screaming on global television as if that's how black women behave. My wife does not behave like that. My daughters do not behave like that. Mika does not behave like that. The majority of black women I've run into in my 5 decades of living do not act like that. You can disagree without being disrespectful or disagreeable. Scott Jennings does a beautiful job of it every single day on CNN, and he ain't got no friends on that dais. This was absolutely despicable. That's point number one. Point number two, I am black. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have been black since 1977. I don't plan on transitioning in anything else. I identify as black. I will always be black. And because I have a family that was involved in my education process, I don't need the government teaching me about who I am culturally. Because let's face it, the government has done a bang-up job of failing in that department. I also have never been taught about Jewish American heroes. I have not been taught about Puerto Rican heroes. I have not been taught about Japanese American heroes. And I don't need to. When you allow the government to educate your children and let them be the number one voice in your culture, then what you're doing is setting people up to whitewash and completely obliterate who you actually are. The other problem is, and this is not a Linda McMahon problem, this is a problem going all the way back to Jimmy Carter in the late 70s. The U.S. Department of Education has a $90 billion per annum budget, but we're 27th in reading comprehension and 34th in mathematical computation skills on the world stage. And so DEI is not the problem. Also, black people, and I know you're not going to like this, but every one of these programs, affirmative action, DEI, welfare, primarily have benefited what became out of nowhere the number one minority in this country, and that is white women. So black people who claim to be pro-black but are caping and going out and marching and singing "We Shall Overcome" and ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, talking about we need DEI, and I'm gonna need you to answer it with the yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. Bobo, how are you fighting for 4%? The only time in American history it made sense to fight for 4% is when the Revolutionary War happened and Washington and them was fighting over a 4% tax without representation. This is insanity and a waste of taxpayer dollars. We need to start making sure that we have the opportunity to educate our children properly. And you fighting for DEI as if it's something, but you're leaving out the fact that they have books that are trying to educate people who have school-age children, our kids, about things that I'm not ready to have a conversation with my 10-year-old
That's
Black
facts.
daughter about.
That's
About
facts.
sexuality and identity and touching and experimentation in a way that is not healthy or natural or normal.
That's
You know,
facts.
you had to get a permission slip to have the health class teacher talk to you
Yeah,
about
and that's
condom
the
use.
crazy part about that. That's the crazy part about that, right? Because I remember, and this is the 2000s, okay? I
Mhm,
remember we had sex ed, right?
mhm,
You could opt out of that class because there were some who were in certain religious sects. I'm here in Maryland, right? So
mhm.
you have different types of children, right? And with that being said, you could opt out of it, but if you didn't, that's where you learn things, but that was 8th grade and above.
Right.
Okay, where you can kind of,
Process.
conceptualize these things.
Right.
The problem with the Democratic Party is they're not looking at it from an educational standpoint, because there is a point where you should talk about that. And a lot of the peers that you might interact with in that way, because kids are doing what they do, are going to be your peers from high school and things like that, right? The problem is the Democrats do not want to wait until then,
Mhm.
right? Where they can have a discussion, everybody's involved, the school, the kid, and the parent. No, they want to catch your kid when they're pre-K in their kindergarten, because everybody knows from 0 to 7 is what? The learning.
The learning years. Yep.
Yep. And once you program them there, that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
We have been helping people grow online. It has been absolutely amazing. We have helped many content creators get from zero to monetization in under 30 days. We even have a couple of these superstars who did it in 1 or 2 weeks. If you want to learn how to do YouTube, I don't care your age, I don't care what skills or talents you have. Trust me, I can help you do it effortlessly. Just reach out to me with the word coach and we can get it done. One more thing. We have a YouTube course that I just now created. I'm extremely proud of, and a lot of people are getting so much from. Purchase that course and work with us. You can join our private Facebook group and our daily group calls, which is 3 to 5 days per week. And you can learn so much more than you've ever learned before. I can't wait to hear from you. Love you. Peace.
Right.
And they're not gonna stray from that, and they understand that it's all psychology. The same with the kids and the trans thing. It's all psychology, and yes, it's perversion, because I told people, that whole trans thing is an in for pedos. That's just my personal opinion, because when you tell kids they can make a decision about their sex, then what else can they make a decision about? How far does that go?
Yeah, see, but it starts and stops there, because that's the thing. You're telling a child who hasn't fully developed yet that they can chop off their body parts, but you won't let them go buy a pack of cigarettes. You won't let them get some. You won't let them get some alcohol. You won't let them go off and fight in a war. But you're okay with the it's up to them, and they know their bodies, and that's a decision that should be made with them and their parents. Hold on. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with like Roman and Greek mythology. Like I wanted to go one on one with Zeus. That's how little kids think. I
Right.
don't want to.
And
I don't want to
if
fight
you
Zeus, man.
tell them and push them certain directions, they will look at it. And here's the thing, I tell people all the time, I was a tomboy. I'm probably still what's called a tomboy, right? Because I will wear a skirt and go outside on a dirt bike. Like, I like being outside, right? I like hiking, things like that.
Right.
And so typically it's not very feminine, right? But if I lived in today's world, they would be like, oh, well, maybe she wants to be a boy. Maybe she wants to be trans because she likes trucks and Barbies. Maybe she's non-binary. And no, I just like fun stuff.
Yeah. Like and
I'm
fun.
a kid, right?
Yeah.
I
Right.
just
That's what.
like fun stuff. The
Yeah.
trucks make nice noises and they go vroom, and the Barbies, they're so pretty and cute, and you can do their hair.
Right.
It's just the Democrats, they twist everything.